Before I started free roaming my rabbits, I had a lot of questions, and now that I've been doing a little bit, I thought I'd answer them. Also, just like this intro of my dog watching my sugar glider when the video is about rabbits is completely irrelevant. This video might be irrelevant because I'm just answering questions that I had and I wish someone answered, and I'm just hoping that you guys have the questions too. My first question when I started free roaming my rabbits is, what was the mess going to be like? Before, they were in their pen for around 10 to 12 hours every day, and then they were free roaming for about 10 to 12 hours. Does that add up to 24? I'm not sure. They were pretty much halfway in their pen, halfway out free roaming, and this area would be pretty messy and the pen would get really messy. So when I thought I would start free roaming them 24/7, I thought there was going to be a huge mess and it was going to be a lot of cleaning. Surprisingly, the mess that you guys see right now is pretty much how it looks after 2 days of me not cleaning. To be honest, most of the mess is from the sugar gliders. The rabbits are really good about pooping in their litter boxes. I have one litter box here. I have another one outside that's being cleaned. I think the reason that they're so good about their litter habits now is, one, the space is a lot bigger, so the mess that used to accumulate and felt like a lot of mess in their pen isn't really that much because it's spread out. Another thing is, when I'd let my rabbits out for free roaming time in this room, since they didn't have access to it 24/7, I felt like they did a lot more territorial markings. But now that they have access to this room 24/7, they don't really feel the need to mark their territory, and I hardly have any territorial poops or pees at all. The only time I've really seen any poops fall out is usually along the corner, and I think that's just them flicking it out of their litter box by accident. All I do to clean the room is run this miniature vacuum over the whole thing every couple of days, and sometimes I do let the Roomba go and do a little bit more of a thorough job, or I pull out the bigger vacuum to get any of the dust and fur. So my final thoughts on cleaning, I wouldn't say that I spend any less or more time cleaning. However, it is a lot easier to clean and it gets significantly less messy. For example, when they used to move their toys around in their cage, because their cage is a lot smaller, the toys really only fit in one type of arrangement. So if things got moved around a lot, it looked really cluttered and messy and I'd have to be cleaning it. But in the room, if they decide they want to move things to the center of the room and things just end up moving on their own, it's really not a huge deal. I did a video with my dog and I'm so surprised about how many of you guys really liked him. He loves the sugar gliders, but the sugar gliders don't really like him. It's a tough world out there, buddy. It's a tough world. Just look at this focus. Coco, do you want a treat? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to see your girlfriend? Winky? Anya? That's like his favorite person. Another thing I wondered is if free roaming my rabbits would give them a more enriching lifestyle. And for this, my answer is not really. I don't see how free roaming them in this room, which is quite a bit bigger, is really that different than having a pen that's the size of this room. In regards to the amount of enrichment that they get, I still think that they need a lot of enrichment. They still need consistent out of cage time. They still need a lot of human interaction and different toys and different puzzles to keep them entertained. I think for animals, just giving them a lot of space isn't enriching on its own. I see so many people give their rabbits these huge pens, but they're completely empty, and I'm not really sure what people expect their rabbits to do in it. Of course, the more space you can give your rabbit, they will definitely utilize the space. But I do think that more than just the amount of space you have, it's what you have in it. I will say that it's a lot easier to make a more enriching setup with such a big room. When I had their cage, there's only so many things that I could fit in. But when I have this entire room, I'm able to have so many more toys. I will say that I had to make a lot of toys to actually end up filling up the space. And I don't think they use all of them at once. And I want to start rotating out the toys just to add even more enrichment. Overall, I wouldn't say it's really that much more enrichment. I think a lot of people who free roam their rabbits don't really do out of cage time, and for that, just look at my gliders. A glider is like the size, let me show you guys, is that big, and their cage is this big. And still, they need a lot of out of cage time because just giving them a large space doesn't make it fun. That's why you have to fill it with so many new things and so many toys and keep rotating it. That's my little attention hog and he wants to come out. But that's why you constantly have to keep things enriching because a lot of space on its own isn't. Another thing that I was really worried about for some reason was having constant escaping. I'm very busy and I have a lot of things to take in and out of the room, and my hands are always full. And I thought if I had a rabbit room, every single time I try to leave, they would try to escape, but it really hasn't been that bad. He's gonna try to come out now. But it's not anything like where I have to push them out every single time I want to close the door. For the most part, they really just mind their own business, especially right after they get back from some out of cage time. They just love being back in the room, especially after I've cleaned it. So they really don't care to escape. I'm not saying that if I left the door open 24/7 or if I had a gate, they wouldn't necessarily try to push the boundaries. I think rabbits are just very curious by nature and they love seeing what they can get away with. But in regards to me, every time I'm coming out and closing the door, I never have issues with them constantly trying to get out. I also do have a video on predator and prey relationships with rabbits interacting with things like dogs and cats. I never let them interact unsupervised. My dog is literally about the same size as the rabbit, and he doesn't care that much about them, so it works out. He does care a lot about the sugar gliders, which is why he can't interact with the sugar gliders. And there's really no reason. There's no reason for him to interact with the rabbits either. As you can see, oof, what was that for? They're unbothered by him, he's unbothered by them. One thing that a lot of people told me would improve so much as soon as I started free roaming was my relationship with my rabbits and their socialization. I honestly haven't seen a huge improvement for this. I think my first rabbit, Sachin, who's always been very outgoing and pretty bonded to me, is enjoying the free roaming a lot better because as soon as I walk in the room, he has the option to greet me. But my other rabbit, Butchin, who's always been a little bit more skittish, socialization hasn't really improved. If anything, I would say it's actually deproved a little bit because it's a lot harder for me to do things like grab him when I need to really fast. And grab sounds kind of aggressive, but if I ever need to move him for something, it's a lot harder to do. So sometimes I'm kind of like chasing him around the room, which I think does. See, the rabbits redecorate everything. You can set it up however you want it to be, but they end up making the decision. But as I was saying, oh my gosh, he does not like the box there. But as I was saying, I think our relationship hasn't improved that much. I think if you had rabbits that weren't bonded, this might be a different story. But since my rabbits are bonded to each other and all their socialization needs are met, they really have no reason to seek me out for anything besides food. That's not to say that our relationship isn't good. Sachin, do you want some pets? I still spend a lot of time petting them and cuddling them. And I think people might notice that our relationships in the videos look better. Simply, what's going on? But in the videos, I'm able to do a lot more interacting with them, which I do think that they enjoy, but I wouldn't say that socialization is really that much different. It's a little bit better for him, about the same, if not a little bit worse for him. Another thing that I wondered is if they would actually utilize the space. Before, I used to have a really large playpen and I would let them out for multiple hours. And then after a couple hours, they would kind of go back into the pen on their own. So I thought free roaming them 24/7, I wasn't sure how much of the room they'd actually utilize. I have to say I was very wrong about this and they do utilize every single part of the room. Every time I come in, they're sleeping in a completely different spot or playing in a different area. I think the reason they weren't utilizing it before is because the room wasn't that set up. Don't make fun of me. I wear these like winter boots in here because one of my rabbits sometimes bites my toes and I just get really scared. So I'm trying to build my confidence. But in them using the space, they definitely use it all and they definitely enjoy it. I think the reason they weren't doing it before is because their pen had everything that they needed and they really had to only go outside if they wanted to try out the new toys. And they kind of run around for a little bit, try out the new toys, and then they'd want to go back in their pen since that's where everything was. Ever since I've downgraded their pen size, there's really not that much in their pen, so they're kind of forced to be around in the rest of their room, and I think that they really do enjoy it. Personally, I've never seen them really running around the room and binking or anything like that. Different rabbits have different personalities, and none of mine are babies anymore, so they just might not be in that phase of life. So I don't necessarily see them running around, but they definitely utilize every single part of the room. If his dog do this, he made such a scene to come into the room, and then once he's done, he kind of just like waits at the door and he's like, "Excuse me, woman, are you gonna let me out?" He does the same thing for my bedroom. He like scratches and whines, and then I finally let him in, and then 5 seconds later, he's like, "I'm over this, I wanna leave." I also do want to give a couple disclaimers. I had a lot of people ask if I felt pressured into free roaming and tell me that my X-Pen setup was completely fine. I do really appreciate this, and one of the reasons I was actually a little bit hesitant to start free roaming after Len and the Bunny made the video about me is I didn't want people to think that I was succumbing to any type of pressure, and I really don't want to give the impression that I've changed. However, free roaming them in this rabbit room is something that I wanted to try ever since my pet room tour is where I discuss it, but I wanted to try it even before then. When I first actually got this room, I tried free roaming them, but I was just way too busy to actually set it up and rabbit proof it properly, and it was always a mess and I could never clean it and keep up with it. So I stopped free roaming them and did the large pen like I'd always done. And then right before their neuters, they became very territorial and they were pooping and peeing everywhere. So then having the pen worked really well. And then after their neuter, I wanted them in a smaller area just so they could recover and I can monitor everything better. So the timing just worked out that their neuters were completely healed, my college semester had ended, and I really wanted to try free roaming, so that's why I did it. I do think the X-Pen setups are completely fine, and I do want to say that even though it might seem like my perception towards free roaming has changed a lot, it really hasn't. Before, when I discussed free roaming, I always meant sharing a living space with your rabbits. I always thought free roaming was when you're having them in your bedroom or your living room or in an area of your house the same way that you would a dog. However, I feel like a lot of other people have different definitions. It seems like having a rabbit room, like this extra bedroom, is pretty common for what people consider to be free roam rabbits, so I'm kind of trying to adapt that terminology, even though I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I personally would never free roam my rabbits in an area of my house that I utilize, like the kitchen or living room, because I do have a puppy. One of my rabbits is very territorial, and one of them is deaf and pretty skittish. So I don't think that free roaming in a main portion of my house or sharing a living space with my rabbits would work very well. But as for them having this big rabbit room just for themselves, it works really good for us. A lot of people have also asked how long I plan to keep free roaming. So far, I really like it, and I think I'll be doing it for the foreseeable future. I try to take things semester by semester. Hey, he is way too obsessed with the sugar gliders, which is why he's usually not allowed in here. But it's not a huge deal because the sugar gliders don't really mind him. It's just really annoying when he barks. But as I was saying, I like to take things semester by semester because my lifestyle changes so much. Right now, having everything online and being home, I have a lot of extra time, and this free roaming setup with them being out of cage time in a secured outdoor playpen works really well for us. In the winter, I might have to reevaluate because I still firmly believe that out of cage time is so important for rabbits, and unless I'm able to find a great area that I can offer it every single day, I don't know if it would make sense for me to still use this entire pet room and not give them any area for out of cage time. Or at that time, I might try something different and maybe have a couple different toys that I rotate in and out for a couple hours every day, and that could kind of simulate out of cage time. I'm not sure yet, but for now, this is what I'm doing and I really like it. So that was everything. I also don't want any of you all to feel pressured into giving your rabbits an entire room. I think it's completely unnecessary. I don't think it's more enriching or anything like that. I think having this entire room is such a huge privilege and I am so grateful. In so many countries, entire families share one bedroom, and having entire bedrooms for every kid is a pretty American subject. So having one be just for your animals is completely absurd for a lot of people. So I don't expect anyone to do this. I don't want to come across as I don't know what the word is. I'm not an English major, but I don't want to come across like I'm better than anyone else for having a free roam rabbit room. Like I said before, I don't think that the benefits of having a free roam room is really that much different than having a large pen. Also, just a thing, if people are going to say that my rabbits are stressed out because of my dog, there's my dog, there's my rabbit flopping. Flopping is one of the main things that they do when they're very comfortable and relaxed, so he obviously doesn't mind the dog. If anything, the dog is probably more stressed out by the rabbit. So those are some of the changes I've noticed free roaming my rabbits and some questions that I had. I do think that your answers would be completely different depending on your individual rabbits and the type of free roaming situation that you're doing, but I just wanted to share my experience. Let me know what questions you guys have down below and what video ideas. I love to make things that you guys are actually interested in seeing, and I love interacting with you in the comments, so be sure to comment down below. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye.